Hi friends, welcome back. Today we're talking about parallelograms, and parallelograms are a type of quadrilateral. So before we go any further, I'm going to give you this lovely flow chart that I have that demonstrates, and I got to get my face out of here for just a second, that demonstrates what each of these quadrilaterals are. So quadrilaterals are four-sided polygons, and some quadrilaterals are parallelograms, some are trapezoids, some are kites, some parallelograms are rectangles, rhombi, and some are squares. Today we will be talking about these guys right here, this parallelogram. So four-sided figure is called four-sided polygon is called a quadrilateral. Today we're talking about parallelograms. It's very exciting. Okay, so I can see your enthusiasm. It's very thrilling. Parallelograms have some things that apply to them, some properties that apply to them, and we want to dive into those because what we are able, once we know those properties, we're able to use them to solve various equations with a parallelogram, within a parallelogram, let's say that. So here we go. For proving parallelograms are parallelograms, if you have a four-sided figure and both pairs of opposite sides are parallel, and those lines are kind of faint, but you can see that there's arrows marking. That indicates that they are parallel. These two are parallel to each other, and then these two are parallel to each other. If you have both pairs of opposite sides are parallel, or if both pairs of opposite sides are congruent, and that means that's what these figures indicate here. Or if you have one pair of opposite sides that are both parallel and congruent, all you have to do is satisfy one of these three situations here, then you have proven that you have a parallelogram. Okay, so once you have proven that you have a parallelogram, you got some nice little rules that come in with that. Here's what we've got. And by the way, grab your notebook, write this down. It really is helpful, so that way you, when you're answering questions later, because as we get, so my quadrilateral sheet here, when we get into talking about rectangles, rhombi, and squares, those can be confusing if you're not sure which exact properties apply to which. So grab that notebook. Okay, so let's take a look at the rest of these here. We have angles. So the deal, once you have proven that something is a shape is a parallelogram, we have two things. For the angles, the opposite angles are congruent. So angles opposite of each other are congruent. Consecutive angles are supplementary. Remember, consecutive means one right after the other or right next to each other. And supplementary means 180 degrees. So then we also know that the diagonals bisect each other. So the diagonals bisect each other. So make sure you notate all of this down. And now we are going to apply this rule. Okay, so let's take a look at our polygon here. Polygon ABC. I didn't realize the whiteout just looks so much worse on the screen than it does in real life. Okay, so the polygon ABCD is a parallelogram. So make sure to draw this out in your notebook. Now that we know that this is a parallelogram, we can apply some of our rules. First, let's talk about the sides. Because we know that this is a parallelogram, that means all of these apply. It means both pairs of opposite sides are parallel, both pairs of opposite sides are congruent, and it also means one pair of opposite sides is both parallel and congruent. Okay, but because we know that information, that means that for solving for x, to find the value of x, all we have to do is set these guys equal to each other. So let's go ahead and do that. If we say 7x minus 2 equals 5x plus 2. Okay, so now what we've got to do is solve that guy. I just realized I don't have a board underneath here, and that makes it a little harder. Okay, so 7x minus 2 equals 5x plus 2. So what I always encourage you, deal with your variables first, because if ever you have an answer of a 0, then having dealt with your variables makes it a little easier. So minus 5x from both sides. Minus 5x. And when we do that, these cancel out. We're left with 5, 6, 7. So 2x minus 2 equals 2. So many 2's here. All right, our next step is to add 2 to both sides. And when we do that, these cancel out, and we're left with 2x equals 4. All right, let's go ahead and divide by 2. Divide by 2, we get x equals 2. Okay, and that is because opposite angles, or opposite sides, I should say, are congruent. Now, the other rule is that opposite angles are congruent. So you can see these opposite angles are congruent. You can kind of see that just by eyeballing it. You see this is a small one, this is an acute angle, and this is obtuse. So those two would not be congruent. So let's look at this. Find the value of y. These guys that are opposite each other are, so 11y plus 11 equals 13y minus 7. And when we do that, we get, let's go ahead and deal with our variables first. So I'm going to minus 13y. You could also minus 11 if you wanted. I like to move my variables to the left. When I do that, I get negative 2y plus 11 equals negative 7. If I minus 11 from both sides, I get negative 2y equals negative 18. Now to get that y by itself, I'm going to divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2, and y equals 9. Make sure to box your answers so that they are nice and easy to find. And of course, I know that you will show your work by writing out everything that you do here. Okay, let's talk about the other rule that we have for our parallelograms, the other property, I should say. The other property that we have is, if you recall, the diagonals bisect each other. Oh, I'm sorry, before we talk about diagonals, let's talk about the consecutive angles are supplementary, meaning the angles that are next to each other equal 180 degrees. That means that when we're looking at this parallelogram here, these guys are going to be 180 degrees. They're supplementary. So what we have is 16x plus 19x plus 5. So I'm just adding those two angles together. That equals 180 degrees. 16x and we've got 19x. That's going to give us 35x plus 5 equals 180 degrees. Let's go ahead and minus 5 from both sides. We get 35x equals 175 degrees. Okay, so then, oops, that's supposed to say 35. Let's try that again. Erasable pens are our friend. Okay, so 35x, there we go, 35x equals 175. Divide both sides by 35, kablam, kablam. And we end up with x equals 5. Now this is geometry. We always go back and we reread the question. It says, what is the measure of angle R? Well, we did not answer that question. We found x. So in order to find the measure of angle R, let's do some work over here. The measure of angle R equals 19x plus 5. 19x plus 5. Now we know x is 5, so we're going to say the measure of angle R equals 19 times 5 plus 5. All right, 19 times 5, that's going to give us 95 plus 5. So the measure of angle R equals 100 degrees. So those are the rules of parallelograms and how you would apply them. Hope this helps. Look forward to seeing you next time.